Hello, everyone. My name is Doina, and I am the program coordinator for the Stamina program. And I am here with Tarika Chawla, who has been generous to come in and give us this amazing workshop. She has done a great talk with us during the Stamina program in 2021 this summer, and she decided to come in and give us some more information, which we're very, very grateful about. And I'm just going to pass the virtual mic to Tarika so that she can introduce herself and get this party started. Thank you,
Abs-
Tarika.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dana. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the VOLUTION session. Today, we're going to talk about Find Your Coral Reef. But before that, a little bit about me. I am Tarika Chawla. I am a mobile application security engineer at Shopify. Most of my job is to make sure that all the mobile apps that are developed at Shopify are secure for our merchants to use. Other than that, some of my interests are hiking. I learned skiing a couple years back, and now I'm planning to learn snowboarding this year. And I love reading books as well. And some of my favorite ones are related to artificial intelligence and anything with the self-improvement books. That's my thing. So today we're going to talk about Find Your Coral Reef, and we're going to do a couple of activities on how you can curate that process for yourself as well. Just to start with, I'm sure like a lot of you have an interest in scuba diving, but I wonder why would you want to go scuba diving in a vast ocean? What's in there that you really want to see? Well, if I have to go scuba diving, it's going to be for this. It's going to be the coral reef in that vast ocean. In this picture, you can see a lot like diverse and such a colorful variety of animals, plants, and seaweed. This coral reef provides food and oxygen to all these plants and animals around this coral reef. In addition to food and oxygen, it also provides shelter to a lot of juvenile small animals. On top of that, it can also release and adapted toxins, which can keep the predators away from the coral reef, which helps all these juvenile small animals to grow and thrive. Now imagine having a same kind of coral reef for yourself, where you can find the characteristics which can help you thrive and be successful. In order to find your coral reef, we're going to start with my own process of how I found mine. And I'm going to start from the very first day of my job at a startup company, my internship, in fact. So on the very first day, I was given a project for Android development. So without giving it a much thought and without any prior experience in Java development or Kotlin, I ended up learning Java and Android development to make this Android app. In 4 months, I got to a point where I had something to show, a demo Android app available for our clients. But the first world problem in our mobile world is that the client demanded that they want an iOS app. Well, now that with zero experience in iOS development, no experience at all in Objective-C, I went to my lead and I told him that I'm going to work on this iOS app for the demo in 2 weeks. And I got into that. It was a challenging thing to do, but the interesting thing is that I did end up working on that iOS demo app, and I did the demo of that iOS app. But none of the code that I used in my demo app was actually useful enough. It was so scratchy that I could use it in my actual app when I actually developed the app. Here's the interesting thing. The important part wasn't the fact that I finished the demo app, and I actually gave the demo. The interesting part was that I didn't hesitate to go to my lead, to go to my CTO and tell him that I am going to work on this iOS app. I'm going to learn iOS development and make this happen. That was the kind of environment I was given. I was given the environment where I didn't have to ask for permission to what I should do. I simply rose to the challenge and I took it. I learned iOS development and I made it happen. In the entire 2 years of my job at Point.io at a startup company, It was a continuous learning, but in 2 years, I was handling the entire mobile platform of that company with 3 Android apps and 3 iOS apps from scratch and published to App Store and Play Store. Hence, there was a continuous learning part of my job. Then after 2 years, the climax came. I started thinking, I was like, okay, so what else do I need in my Coral Reef? What are the other traits that I need to thrive in my career? Well, the first thing came to my mind was continuous feedback. This is the moment where I decided to move to Warner Brothers, where I had 6 senior developers to look at my code and give me continuous feedback. In my previous team, I was making all the architectural decisions. I was leading the entire mobile platform, but there was one very important thing missing for my career: the continuous feedback, the feedback on whether my decisions were right, whether the architecture I'm looking at or I'm planning to implement is that even gonna work or not. But once I moved to Warner Brothers, every single line of code that I wrote was being looked at, was being curated, I was getting feedback on every single thing that I was learning. Hence, the Warner Brothers added yet another thing to my list of Coral Reef, that was continuous feedback. After 1.5 years at Warner Brothers, that's when I moved to Shopify. Well, with the new team came the new challenges. Being at Shopify, being at such a big organization, the most important thing, the key, was to gain context. And in order to gain context, the one thing that at my first day of my orientation at Shopify, they told us was to not be afraid to ask questions. And that's the only way to gain context around any project that you're working on. Knowing a bigger picture of the project is important. And for that, I needed to ask questions. Well, that did hit right on. That was something I wasn't comfortable about. Asking questions was not my forte. Now, here I was with yet another thing right on me. I needed to learn how to ask questions and how to be comfortable about asking questions. So I needed to fix this. I needed to figure out a way, how can I learn this? One thing I knew, that this is the right team where I can learn this. So I knew that this is the place I can absolutely achieve it. But how do I learn this? So what I did is I started writing every single thing I wanted to learn on the top of my diary, on top of every page of my diary, until I actually learned it. You can see ask questions faster or sooner. This was the first page, first one on my list the day I attended the orientation at Shopify. Since then, I ended up following this for almost 1.5 years at Shopify. I consistently wrote down the next thing I wanted to learn and then the next thing I wanted to learn, and I tried to achieve it. At least every day I had a focus, I wanted to learn this. The next one came, how would I want to give suggestion? How do I want to give continuous feedback to someone? More I added to my list, more I started figuring out who is the next person or who is the next team I want to add into my Coral Reef. From the past experiences of 5 years, I started to understand the process of how I was finding my Coral Reef. More I was adding to my list, more I was adding more, like every single time I added a new thing into my list of things that I needed to thrive in my own career, I made sure I find the team, a right team or a right person, right people who can help me achieve it. But since this is a process, I still have a lot of things that I haven't conquered yet, such as trusting my judgment more. I have the right team. I have a team at Shopify which can help me, which is going to support me learning how to trust my judgment more when it comes to the decisions I need to make. How do I handle negative criticism, and how to not to be afraid of failure. For me, this has been a process that I have been following for 5 years, and the list keeps going from gray to blue. So the blue ones are the ones that I've already achieved with the help of people in my Coral Reef. And then the gray ones are the ones that I'm still working on. From this, now we're going to talk about how to find your Coral Reef. It is a process that takes time to ingrain in yourself. So we are gonna take a moment and do a worksheet. Once you do the process with me in this talk, and then you can continue to do this process for yourself, maybe every day. maybe the least you can do is have a journal and you write down the things that you actually want to have in you to be able to thrive in your career, even at school. It doesn't have to start when you are in your career, when you're already at a job. It can start today. Think about anything that you think that you want to achieve today. It can be like, oh, I want to go to my teacher and tell her I want to take on this task, or I want to lead this project, or I want to be a team captain. It could be anything. So now we're gonna make a list. So I hope if you have a paper and a pen with you right now, or the other option is that we have a worksheet in the link that you can just use, and it has two big squares. With the one on the right, we are going to talk about the traits that you want in order to thrive. That's where we're gonna start first. So if you're taking a paper and pen, so just follow my lead, take a pen and a paper, draw, and then draw big squares. Just keep like 2-3 fingers apart and right across each other. Once you have that, I'll give you a minute. Once you have the two big squares ready to go, don't think too much. We're going to take it step by step. So let's take a deep breath and start the process. So the first, we're going to list 6 to 7 traits. If not that, let's just do 1 or 2 traits. That's completely fine. It's about how many you can think about at this moment or later. As I said, it's a process. It's a redundant process, and practice makes everyone perfect, right? So these traits can be personal or professional, or it can be emotional as well. Emotional, as simple as that, oh, I should be able to share my opinion with this person, or I should be able to share my opinion without thinking what other people would say about me, or without any judgments, or I should be able to give a suggestion to someone without judging them. It could be as simple as that. Or you can also think about these traits in a way based on the target you want to achieve, such as, oh, I want to be able to go to my teacher and say that I want to be a team captain. So yeah, you can write that down. So now we're going to go to the next step. Again, these are the examples just for you to kind of get an idea on what are the bases for these. So we're going to take a minute and go through these examples and write down your own. As I mentioned, this process is personal to every single person. We all have our strengths and we all have our weaknesses. So use your weaknesses and make them your strengths. That's the way to go. And let's strengthen the strengths as well, right? At the same time. I'll just take a thumbs up in the comment section if you have the list for you. Okay, great. If you're following it on YouTube, then you can just stop the process here, stop the video, and then write your own, write these traits and take your time with it. Again, there is no timing on how fast you should be able to come up with these traits. These can take 5 days, these can take months to come up with, and that's completely fine. The moment you know it, write it down, write it in a journal, write it at the top of your notebook, anywhere, somewhere where you can look at it and you know that this is something you need to achieve. Moving on to the next step. Now, in the second square box that you have, we're going to write down at least 5 names that come up in your head. People who are either in your team, in your school, your peers, your cousins, your family members, anyone, but there's just one couple criteria to that. The person you are close to, the person you have learned something from, they are your go-to person. Like, it could be anything. It can be just a person you are close to, a person you have been like you go to whenever you are in a situation, or you call them right away. Even if it's a good thing or a bad thing, whatever news you have, you go to them. It could be anything. Someone you actually learned something from. It could be your cousins. I remember learning this habit of reading books from one of my cousins, and she's almost 10 to 12 years younger to me. So the age is not a factor here. So anyone that you have learned something from, Just write down 5 names that come on top of your head. And I'll get a thumbs up once you are done. And again, just one additional thing, you can write the entire team as a person that maybe the last stemming up team that you worked with was one of the entire person that entity that helped you learn something. All right, I am waiting on the thumbs ups and I'm more than happy to wait. It doesn't have to be 5 people, even if it's less than that, that's completely fine as well. All right, so now that you have the list, we're gonna go ahead to the next step, which is gonna be a game. We're gonna do match the columns. So now that you have these 2 squares ready to go, where you have all the things that you wanna achieve or the traits that you want in yourself, and then the people who so far has been part of your journey or you have learned something from. Now we're going to play match the column. I'll start with my example. So for me, don't have to ask for permission. I learned that from my microshare team. That was my startup company. Then, not afraid of failure. That's something I'm still learning from someone. I have a really good mentor named Ron. So I'm still learning from them. So they are part of my Coral Reef. The next one, continuous learning, that I am learning at Shopify team. I did learn at Warner Brothers too, actually. So yeah. Next one comes continuous feedback. Absolutely learned it at Warner Brothers. That was the reason I moved to Warner Brothers, right? So when you have such an intentional approach to your career, to your next step, that helps you understand that, okay, who are the people you want to keep close and who are the people who are not really playing a role in your life, right? It could be a team, it could be a person, but that's an intentional way to live. That's an intentional way of figuring out that, okay, this is my space. Who do I want in that space? And these has to be the people who are serving a purpose in your life, who are helping you get to the next level. The next one we have, oops. Okay. So as I mentioned, you don't have to match every feature with the list in the other column. The idea for that is, this is how you grow your Coral Reef. Now I have 2 things in this list: not afraid to ask questions and trust my judgment more. I am still trying to figure out who can help me with that. I'm still trying to understand, like, what's the best way to learn that. For me, trust, like, not being afraid to ask questions, that's probably going to be Shopify team, because I have already understood the process. I know this is the team that can help me get there. They have been supportive about me going through that process and learning that. Trust my judgment more, I don't know yet. That's the process that's how you're going to grow, right? You have a certain feature that you want, you haven't figured out from whom to get help yet. And it's okay if they're not part of your Coral Reef yet, but that's the point. Now you're going to go and find those people and bring them into your Coral Reef. If they're not already part of it, then go and find them, is the idea. And be more intentional on your growth. Right. This is one element of how you find your Coral Reef. This is about finding the right support group technically but being very intentional about what are your traits, what are the features that you want in order to thrive, and then who are those people who can help and serve that purpose and be the support for you. Now we're going to talk about the next most important element of finding your Coral Reef, and that's called mentorship. Mentorship is a process. We're going to talk about a process of how you can find mentors again and again in your life. As it said, mentors are for life. but you can't have a same mentor or same list of mentors for the rest of your life. The list of mentors should grow and change based on your goals, your opinions. The list changes and it grows as you grow. So you need to keep changing your mentors. But there's something that can remain constant, and that's the process of how you find those mentors. It will be quite awkward if I go to someone walking down the hall and ask me asking them, "Would you be my mentor?" I don't remember the last time I did that. But there are so many moments. There are some people that you just kind of adore. You love how they, like, let's just say that I am part of I'm an audience at one of the talk, and I love the speaker. It'll be still awkward for me to go and say to that person, "Oh, I loved how you gave a talk. I loved the way you gave that speech. Would you be my mentor?" That would never work, and it'll be as awkward as it could get, right? And you could never bring yourself up to do that, and that's absolutely fine, because maybe that's not the right way to do it, right? So with years of experience, with time, I realized that there are better ways to find mentors, and rather more natural ways to find mentors. Well, the first one I learned was, don't seek for a mentor, seek for a solution to your problem. This was something I learned at I think in 2 years, the first 2 years of my career. So I was part of the Android development group, and I was already doing iOS development as well. Usually in the mobile world, it's either Android development or iOS development. But for me, I was kind of that bridge who wanted to do both. So we have this in Philadelphia, we have these meetup groups called Android GDG Philadelphia, that's Android meetup. And then we have Philly Cocoa, that's iOS meetup. Being part of both, I wanted to go and join them. I was like, you know what? Why don't put both the engineers in the same room? Yeah, this was the problem I wanted to solve. So I decided to do Android meets iOS event in Philadelphia at Philly Tech Week event. Okay, I submitted the event. Great, it got accepted. Wonderful. The problem was I didn't have a location. I didn't know where to get food. I had zero experience in organizing an event. So basically, other than the name tag of an event, I had nothing. Well, see, now I had a problem to solve. So I went to one of the co-organizer at GDG Philadelphia. Her name is Yash. And that's the rightest person in the picture, by the way, or should I say left? Huh. The dead end, the woman in the dead, and then the last end. Okay, yes. She has been my mentor for years now, years. And this is how I found her. I worked with her in organizing this event. She had a lot of experience organizing since she was a co-organizer of the meetup group already. We had a great success at the event. We had engineers from both sides. We ended up collaborating with Philly Coca, the other meetup group, and bring in a collaborative event, in fact, and we had 100 people as an attendee. This is how you solve a problem. But in the entire process, I found my mentor. I found a mentor who's been there for a lot of my goals. In fact, I ended up working with her at Warner Brothers. And at that point, when I was working with her, I didn't know that she is an Android lead at Warner Brothers. So yeah, seek for a mentor. Don't seek for a mentor. Seek for a solution to your problem. So find the problems you want to solve, and then find the people who can help you solve those problems. And in that process, somewhere, you'll find your mentors. The other way is make more mistakes and ask more questions. For me, this process really worked. Well, at my very first company at a startup, as you all can see, that I love giving talks. So here I am, right? I even in college, after college, I used to love giving talks. So at one prime point, I was giving a talk at my startup company to other college kids. And the CEO of my company at that point went to the end of the room right across me and went like this. Actually, before I get to that, no, I wouldn't have understood it if I wouldn't have had the previous conversation with them. Once I was giving a conversation at the company event. I was giving a talk at a company event. And after the event, he came to me and he said, go slow next time, be a little bit slower, and then give a talk. With your anxiety, you're giving a talk really, really fast. It's hard to understand. Great passion, loved it, but be slow. Okay, got it. I'll be careful next time. Well, the next time came, and I was giving a talk again at my company, and but it was, since it was an event organized by my company, but for college students. So he went to the right at the end of the room, right across me, and went like this. And I took a deep breath, and I knew exactly what to do. I needed to go slow. So make more mistakes, and people who are going to be your mentors are going to give you feedback, and they're going to continuously give you feedback until you get it right. That's one. The other example I have is from Yash, the person that I just mentioned in the previous slide. So for that person, since she became my lead at Warner Brothers, one day on our one-on-one, we went into the room, and the first thing she said, you say sorry too much. And that was a lesson learned that day. She explained it to me that leading a meeting, you need to be careful on how you say certain things. You can't be sorry for leading it. You have to. So the idea was that you need to say thank you instead, or like thank you for waiting, or anything, but train your brain and don't say sorry, at least not that many times. It gets noted. These are the things. So make more mistakes, and people who are there to help you, who are there to guide you, who teach you, in fact, who make sure that they tell you your mistake, are the mentors that you're looking for. Hence, this is how I knew that, okay, making more mistakes, asking more questions, solving a problem helped me find my mentors. And these are the mentors who have stayed for a very long time. As I said, there are mentors and they keep changing based on the goals, right? But if you keep the process, you'll continuously find more mentors in your life. Now, let's not go headhunting just yet of going and like finding the mentors. Let's look into a perspective. It's always easier to connect the dots backwards. What if you already have mentors around you, but you're not recognizing them? You just don't know they're your mentors. One way, there are ways we can figure out why you think they can be your mentors. They don't need to have a badge lying around with them that they are your mentors or anything, right? So now we're going to look at the other people's actions in a perspective that how their actions helped you at some point earlier in your life. Maybe they were your mentors. Maybe we just never realized, right? Now we're going to talk about how you can figure out, how you can pinpoint that, oh, yes, I think that person was my mentor. Or yes, I think this person, this peer right now has been my mentor so far. And then you strengthen that bond, right? Now that you know in your head. So here are a couple of things. How do you know that they're mentors, right? Well, this is one. They will all the time vouch for you. This was an example. This is an email. This is an Android study group that's an invite only group. And this was an year later after I left Warner Brothers and I joined Shopify that I got this email. But the moment I got this email, I knew exactly who got me invited into this group. And that was my Android lead, Yash, from the previous person that I was talking about. So these people will always remember you. They'll always vouch for you because they know your potential and they know that they can help you get to the next level. The next one, you'll send them thank you emails about it. This is the email I sent to Ron, one of my other mentor, who once taught me to go slower when I'm giving a talk. There was another incident where I actually understood that, okay, he is my mentor when 3 years later, I was getting so good at networking that I would go to a hiking meetup and I would actually make 3 other friends. instead of, like, I was actually getting so good at networking that I would rather go to an event, even I guess even a professional networking event, that I knew exactly how to navigate through it. And this is the person from whom I learned it. I went to 2 years back, before I sent this email, I went to an event. I don't know what it was exactly. It was a pretty heavy professional event. I don't remember what exactly it was, but pretty professional. I ended up standing well, half of the time I ended up standing with my company people, which was basically the CFO of the company and then the CTO of my company, and I'm just standing there. He comes in and he's like, Tarika, let me introduce you to someone. And I went. He introduced me. The next thing he says me, you don't stick with the people you came with. That's the point of networking. So that was a lesson learned again. 2 years later, when I got so comfortable at networking, I sent him this email where I mentioned, and this was a thank you email that I sent to him, knowing that, okay, this is something that I learned, and you will remember for the rest of your life that that was a lesson learned, and that person was the one who who taught you. So you knew that is your mentor, right? Maybe until this point, I didn't know Ron was my mentor, by the way. This was the moment I realized that, oh, Ron has always been my mentor. And this is the email I got back from him. They know it's their job to guide you. That's why they have those. Mentor needs to have certain capabilities in them in order to even become a mentor. They need to know that it's their job to guide you. They know that their feedback matters. Their feedback means something for us. They know that we need it in order to thrive in our careers. So yeah, this was one of the great emails that I got that made me realize and helped me curate this Find Your Coral Reef process a little further, to understand that how do you know they're your mentors. Now that we have already gone through the process of how do you find the mentors, and then how do you recognize the mentors that already exist in your coral reef, I would call it, but in your support group at this point in your life. We're going to go ahead and in the worksheet, you have all these categories there. And I want you to think about who's that person that comes to your mind when you think about these different categories. Someone who challenges your opinion, someone who continuously teaches you. It can be your teacher, it can be a family member, it can be your peer, it can be someone from the stemming up group that you were part of. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes, in fact, to think about every single category, first of all, and then think about the person that comes to your mind. It's completely fine if you don't fill out all the categories, because that's exactly the moment you know that who are the mentors you still need. Right, I'll take the thumbs up whenever. Great. Now the sixth category in this case is a question mark, because that's where personalized mentor list comes, right? Now, is there someone you can think of who doesn't fit any of these categories? Because now you're going to tell me why they're your mentors. Maybe I missed a category. Maybe I don't know who else can be your mentor. So for the question mark part, add your own personalized reason why they can be your mentor and the person who is that mentor. All right, we're going to move to the next slide. So from today's presentation, what did we learn? Well, the major and the most of the important things were to be more intentional on whom you choose for your coral reef. Well, the reason it's important is because you want to have very important or people who serve a purpose in your life, who you want to be there in order to thrive for the next level. Being more intentional on what are the features that you want in yourself and the people who can help you get to that is the best way to understand that who is going to be in that coral reef. Be intentional on what you need in your coral reef. This is your space, this is your coral reef, so you need to decide what is that next thing that you want to learn. What is your priority? Do you want to learn something more emotional at this point? What is the necessity of at the moment? Is this something that you want to be a team captain, or is this something to be a lot more to be better at making a judgment about something, or being particular about how you give a feedback to a certain person? So choose it wisely, and make sure that it's intentional way of finding that, okay, this is the next thing I'm going to work on and this is how I'm going to get there. It's fine if it's just that one thing that you get done, but at least there has to be something that you can focus on at a certain point. Take it one by one. It doesn't have to be the entire list at the same day. Just one thing on top of that notebook or top of that page that you can focus on. That's all what's needed. Great, I am ready for questions. And if you have any, there is a lot more content. And if you want to continue the process of finding your coral reef, feel free to follow the Instagram page, and I'll be posting a lot more content on that as well, so that you can continuously find your coral reef. As I said, it's a redundant process and practice. Thank you all.